So we're looking at the partially eclipsed moon. It is Sunday the 15th of May 2022. We're looking through a 400mm f5.6 maximum opening Nikkor EDIF lens. That's ED for extra low dispersion glass, IF for internal focusing. We're stopped down to f8. And the ISO, I believe, is 160. And we're just letting the moon move through the frame slowly. To be honest, I have not been able to verify how accurate the focus is. It looks pretty good, but it might be slightly off. But we can see the shadow of the Earth. The moon is slowly moving into the shadow of the Earth, and it'll continue for a little over an hour, I think, or about an hour, until it's totally eclipsed. So you should get a fair bit of footage and photos. I was shooting with a Nikon D810 full frame DSLR. It just doesn't have the magnification with this lens, and I don't have like a lens more than 1,000mm that I can put the Nikon on. Now that I think about it, I do have in my possession at the moment a camera that I borrowed from a friend, or a friend lent me. I didn't even borrow it from, in the sense that he just offered it to me. I didn't even ask if I could borrow it. He just said, "Here, you want to try this?" And I would be able to put a 1,200mm equivalent on a full frame, so that might be worth trying a bit later. This is nice with the halo, so we're getting a bit of the halo, I guess, because the moon moved out of the center of the frame. The exposure adjusted in such a way that the moon is washed out, but we see the shadow, and we see the sort of the halo around the moon. I can change that by changing the camera angle, and I think I will do that. This is interesting, but I could just stop filming, and obviously, so here we go. Just raise the lens a little bit. Whoops, it's very hard to get it smooth. Tighten things up. So shaky, but okay, so now we're back to seeing detail in the moon, dark shadow. But as the moon moves out of the frame somewhat, it'll probably do the same thing. We'll probably get a somewhat different exposure. So I actually like this camera. It's a Nikon 1J5, so it was sort of the last of the Nikon 1J series cameras, basically the best of the lot of them. Slightly better 1-inch sensor than in the earlier cameras. It'll do 4K video at 1/15th of a second, or 15 frames per second, which would probably be good for this type of application, but I haven't quite figured it out, and I don't think it'll do it on non-Nikon 1 lenses. In other words, at present I have an adapter to an older manual focus Nikon lens. I don't think the 4K mode will work with this lens. It has to be a Nikon 1 lens, if I'm not mistaken. But this is very nice. I wish I had the same thing on full frame, and now that I think about it, I could potentially do it with the camera that I currently have in my possession, as I was saying. However, at present we're at f8. The lens has a maximum opening of 5.6, but I stopped down one stop for a bit better optical quality. But if I put the other camera on, I have an f8 mirror lens, and with the doubler it would go down to f16. The doubler would bring it up. It's like a 600 mirror lens with a doubler on it, brings it up to 1200. So more or less the same magnification as we have here, but at f16 rather than f8, so 2 stops less. I think it would sort of balance out image quality wise. I'm afraid there might be more vibration though, so I think I'm almost just as well off sticking to what we have here. I'm a little concerned that the battery is only 2/3 charged, and I've only got one. I never got a spare for this camera. I've been looking for spares for quite a while and haven't got one. I could get one online, but I don't like doing that kind of thing if I can avoid it. So we're just going to readjust things again. Just bring the moon over to the left here. Raise the camera a bit. And let it continue through the frame. So, yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with what we're getting here. It does not have the same dynamic range, color depth, and so on as a full frame sensor by any means, but it's, I'd say, more than adequate for this purpose. You can see the Maria very nicely. Again, I have not been able to do a really thorough focus check. It could be slightly out of focus, but it seems to be pretty good just in terms of the unaided eye. I may do a focus check shortly. I'm going to let this run a bit more, a few more minutes, and then I'll end the clip. We're already at 7 minutes. I'll let it run for another minute or two. And as we can see the eclipse progressing here, I wanted to do sequential photos on the same frame on my full frame camera, and I just couldn't get it to work. I just wasn't doing what I had hoped it would, and I wanted to take, you know, photos about 3 minutes apart, so giving the moon enough time to move across the frame so it's not overlapping with a bit of a gap on one single frame, and I just couldn't program the camera to do. I'm sure it's capable, I just couldn't figure it out. So that's how things go sometimes. But once I finish this clip, I may get a little more rigorous and make sure the focus is bang on if possible. I don't know if it can be fine-tuned a little. As I said, it looks pretty good just looking at the screen on the back of the camera here, but it's possible I could get a slightly sharper focus. So as the moon's getting up there, you're seeing the halo. It's getting a bit washed out on the right side. You can still see the Maria near where the shadow is. Probably because we're seeing the umbra, and then so the penumbra is a little outside of the umbra. So I think that's why we're seeing some detail. Yeah, the moon's definitely getting quite washed out. I kind of like it because it does show the sort of hazy halo we have here. You can see the clouds. It's definitely cloudy. So we're seeing this through thin cloud. So it's all very atmospheric in every sense of the word, atmospheric. But I think this clip is just about done. We're at 9 minutes 30 seconds. I might let it go for another 30 seconds, but the moon is almost out of the frame. But I kind of like what I'm seeing here. Yeah, I think we're done. That's strange. I thought what's going on? Oh.